Hello and welcome to the broadcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to recognize signs that your Serbian is improving. Let's get it. So let's start with an analogy, because I think this analogy speaks to what language learning is all about and some of the challenges about how to know if you're improving, if things are getting better for you, or if you're staying in the same place. And I like to use this analogy to explain what language learning is like. So I went snorkeling one time, and I don't mean snorkeling like near the beach, 300 meters off the beach. I went deep sea snorkeling about 14 miles off the coast of Miami. It was beautiful. As far as the eye could see in every direction was just this deep blue sea. There was no way to even know where we were. I'm not a navigator by trade, so as far as I know, this direction was north or that direction was north. I didn't know. Get out in the water, the boat's there. I had my snorkeling buddy, and we're swimming around the coral reef, seeing all these amazing fish. We saw one shark, scared me. It was a black-tip reef shark, didn't bother us. But we're swimming around, and I'm going, man, what a great time. This is really interesting. And before I know it, I look up, come up to get some air, and I turn behind. The boat is like a kilometer away. I can barely see the boat. It's like this big. If someone had asked me how far we had swam from the boat, I would have said maybe 300 or 400 meters, maximum. We weren't supposed to go that far. I was shocked to come up to the surface and look back and see the boat so far away, and my heart just dropped. But I feel like this is what language learning is like, because often at times we have no idea how far we have gone and our capabilities, and we think we're so close to where we started when in reality we are so much further away. We've made so much more progress than we've consciously acknowledged. And so I want you guys to keep that analogy in mind when you think about where you're at. Truthfully, it's very difficult to know if you're not progress monitoring, but I can assure you that if you have a dynamic resource and you're making time to utilize that resource, you are leaps and bounds ahead of where you began. But having said that, let's go into some actual tips and tricks for how you can identify how you're progressing in your language and signs that your Serbian is improving. One sign that would definitely highlight that your Serbian is improving is if you're having less anxiety when you're studying. Less anxiety means you're starting to kind of get some comfort with the routine of engaging with the language. Less anxiety when you're speaking means you're having more comfort in terms of how you navigate through speech. So kind of measure your level of anxiety. How do you feel right now when you study Serbian? Are you thinking, oh, I don't speak Serbian? Or are you kind of like, I'm getting there, let's go. You know, I'm learning. Like, where are you at anxiety-wise? So just kind of measure your level of anxiety. It doesn't have to be any kind of technical scale, but just think through. Are you feeling less anxious when you study? If so, that's a sign that you're improving. Again, decreasing that anxiety means you're starting to get emotionally involved with the language in a positive way. And this is what learning is all about, getting emotionally and consciously and intellectually involved with the language. As you begin to do that, the pressures that you initially felt about learning it or not being able to speak it are going to dissipate and give way to the joy of the journey. Another sign that your Serbian is improving, if you want to study more. If you find yourself building more and more time into your calendar to study Serbian, that is a surefire sign that your Serbian is improving. And why do I say that? Because there's one thing that is more motivating than all others, and that's progress. When you start to experience progress, you're going to want to do it more. Isn't this true? Think about it. Think about your very first time trying to shoot a basketball or trying to swim in a pool. Probably was a little bit scary or a little bit uncomfortable, but remember when you made your very, very first basket, or you actually swam and got to the other end of the pool? How rewarding that felt? What did it make you want to do? It made you want to shoot that basketball again or swim the length of the pool again. And much in the same way, language learning is identical to this process too. So if you find yourself wanting to study more, that is a surefire indicator that your Serbian is getting better. And I congratulate and salute you for that. It's so important to keep this in mind because a lot of times we don't understand where our motivation or our lack of motivation is coming from. And again, I want to highlight that point about progress. Most people, when they get demotivated, it's because they feel lost in the process. They're not sure what they're getting, what they're gaining, what they're giving, but they are sure of one thing. I'm not really getting anywhere. Or so they think. Analyze your study plan, your resources, analyze your anxiety level, and make sure that your progress is increasing, and you can see that as evidenced by your desire to want to engage more and more with the language. Another surefire way that you are improving in your Serbian language, sign number three, is if you find yourself using words or sentence structures you had no idea you knew. This is a wonderful, wonderful experience. When you're talking to somebody or you're trying to make a sentence or pronounce a phrase and boom, out of nowhere comes this new word. The word's not actually new. It's in your brain housing group. It's in the subconscious. Why? Because you've gotten emotional with the language. So the language is going to start to bring itself into your mind. And now as you begin to speak, it's going to just shoot right out. Again, the brain, the activity of the mind is a beautiful thing. And if you find yourself using new phrases, new words, new sentence structures, that is evidence that your Serbian is improving. A fourth sign that your Serbian is improving. You're starting to become less and less fearful about making mistakes. Remember when you first started learning? You were scared to death about making that mistake, right? For a lot of us, this is the case. I know it was for me. I didn't want to mess up. And I was nervous about, what are people going to think when I jack up this declension? Right? When I don't know this verb conjugation and I'm stuck in mid-sentence.
I don't know what to say.
Right? As you become more and more proficient in the language, as you get more and more comfortable with the language, you're going to find yourself becoming less fearful of making mistakes. And not solely because you're making less mistakes, but because you appreciate the fact that making mistakes is a part of the process in the journey of language acquisition. This is how it works. So if you find yourself going, I'm not worried about making a mistake. I want to take a deep dive and get into this speech or get into this conversation, to get into this cultural engagement. If you find yourself doing that, that is proof that your Serbian is improving, because your Serbian is going to improve as your psychology improves. So that is a huge step. If your psychology is improving and you're redefining what it means to fail, and let me stop here for a second. Failure in language learning is not making a mistake. Failure in language learning is not trying to put yourself in a position to make a mistake. Of course you're going to make a mistake. That's a part of learning. So if your psychology has kind of grasped that, then it's shooting you forward in your ability to utilize things that you didn't even know that you know. Sign number 5. If you find yourself sticking to a dedicated resource, if you've identified a dynamic resource that is helping you have and develop a comprehensive understanding of the language, that is a sign that your Serbian is improving. Now, why do I say that? I say that because if you're sticking with the resource, it's because you have properly vetted that resource, you understand your needs as a language learner, and you have found a resource that is helping you meet those needs. Therefore, you're sticking with it. And that is a great thing, because consistency is what's going to beget the progress that we all seek. So if you have a resource, you're utilizing it, you're making time to utilize it, and you're experiencing some growth and you feel good about it, that is evidence that your Serbian is improving. Sign number 6. If your pronunciation is getting better just subconsciously, if you're just trying to say a word and boop, it comes out, it sounds good, it feels good, it is good, you're good. You are improving in Serbian. It's a wonderful thing, because at times we try to pronounce these words and phrases and get our pronunciation right, and we're like, I can't say this word to save my life. And then one day, one fateful day, you're sitting around, you're trying to converse, you have a language class, or you're listening to the lesson videos, and you try to repeat back what you heard, and boom, you just nailed it. That is proof that your Serbian is improving. You'll notice that many of the signs that I mentioned today are nonverbal. And that's something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, because as a beginner, all the progress that you're going to make is not necessarily verbal. It's mental and it's structural in form. The verbal is going to come later. So just stay nice and patient and know that if any of those signs are starting to appear for you, you are in fantastic shape and you are on your way to Serbian proficiency and fluency. If you found this particular broadcast to be helpful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, let us know what you think in the comments. How is Serbian going for you? Are there any signs that I didn't mention today that you're identifying as being a part of your journey and improving your language skills? And if so, let us know what you think those are. Can't wait to communicate with you guys. Thanks for watching this broadcast, and we're going to see you in the next one. Zdravo.